Last fall, we joined forces with the Royal Society of Chemistry to bring together two groups in our research community, publishers and funders. Our goal was to focus on race and ethnicity and take active steps together. Before I share our findings, I want to commend the Royal Society of Chemistry for the leadership they have shown with the Joint Committee for Action on Inclusion and Diversity in Publishing. Working with nearly 50 publishers, they have created a collaborative space for non-competitive knowledge exchange around inclusion and diversity. This is the only way to create a more inclusive publishing system, by adopting a common approach and creating greater transparency as a sector. Both publishers and funders play a central role in fostering and disseminating research and are dependent on the scientific community for peer review. There are also clear differences. Publishers are global and focus on scientific disciplines. Funders are nationally and regionally oriented, for the most part. I see three key takeaways. First, as we all know, representation matters. We need to grow our diversity as organizations, empower our teams to drive change, and ensure that we represent the scientific communities we serve. Staff exchanges, sharing best practices, and celebrating underrepresented role models are a few examples. At Elsevier, we established the SAL Rising Black Scientist Awards, as well as HBCU internships and reverse mentoring programs for senior executives. We also learned the importance of not putting the burden of change solely on the shoulders of the underrepresented. Second, minimize bias and increase diversity in peer review. Racial and ethnic groups are underrepresented in grants and as authors, editors, and reviewers. We need to find ways to ensure greater diversity in reviewers and share our data. At Elsevier, we've had a lot of help from our Inclusion and Diversity External Advisory Board, which includes Tom Welton, by taking a systems approach to balancing our editorial boards, conference speakers, and providing sex and gender guidelines for authors. I invite you to read more in our new IND Advisory Board report, which will be out next week. And finally, there are also areas where collaboration needs more discussion. A key joint commitments priority is to develop a widely adopted race and ethnicity framework to establish baselines. It's been great to share Elsevier's work to develop gender and race and ethnicity schemas to this collective knowledge base. But given funders' alignment to national and regional frameworks, collaborating sometimes may be more complex than we realized, and this is an important insight. Whether funders or publishers, we are all responsible for developing inclusive organizations. But no single organization can solve the complex issues of underrepresentation around race and ethnicity. We will continue to collaborate within and across our sectors to remove systemic barriers. This is the only way that we can make long-lasting change in our research ecosystem.